This is your 20-minute podcast where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Now, here's your host, David Brower.
Hi, this is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and our special guest today is Daryl Urbanski, founder, president of Bestbusinesscoach.ca, and host of the Best Business podcast. Hey, good morning where I'm at. What time of day is it where you at, Daryl?
We are approaching 2 a.m. here, but I'm used to it.
Oh, my gosh. It's funny when you travel and you have to figure out how to get used to different time zones, huh?
Well, it's funny because, to be honest, I actually enjoy it. I'm in the Philippines. I was in Manila last year when I came for 3 months, and I actually really enjoyed it. I kept the same schedule. I make my team work Eastern Standard Time, and my team's all around the world. And so now that I'm traveling, I feel like I should maintain that the company just exists in Eastern Standard Time. But I've actually enjoyed it because people complain about the traffic here. I'm in Cebu right now, but at 2 a.m., there's no traffic. You can cross town like nothing. So I actually enjoy it. Just sleep schedule is a little off. Just, go to bed at like 4 a.m. You sleep till noon and you feel like a teenager again. You're like, oh, it's noon. I'm getting out of bed. And you still.
That's awesome.
So, you just adjust everything. So it's good though.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea to have your team on on the same time, no matter where they are.
Well, that's so important because especially if you have a virtual team, I've been working with online employees for almost 10 years now. And there are pros and cons. Some of the pros are it forces you to build a real business sooner, faster. And what I mean by that is you create more documentation on how things are done. Whereas if people are in the office, it's just watch me and I'll answer your questions when you ask them. But online, you actually tend to make videos and checklists and like actual, assets for a business that become things like if you ever want to sell your business, that's, what I mean? That gives it bulk.
Oh, yeah.
An ability to train other people. So that's a pro, but a con is that it can take a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks to get feedback, to have a conversation about something. So I'm actually really adamant that, hey, we don't have to commute. You don't have to drive anywhere. You probably aren't even paying any tax on the money I'm paying you. So let's make this a team. We have to work at least 75% of our hours in the same block of time.
Makes all the sense in the world. How big's your team?
Right now I got about 12 people. I did have 4 interns, but now I think I hired 2 of them. So I think I have 2 interns and 10 people spread out all around the world. US, Canada, Guatemala, India, Pakistan. Actually, no one in India anymore. Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Philippines.
How do you recruit people for that kind of online business? That has to be quite a challenge, I would think.
It's funny because this isn't what I'm known for, but I actually feel like I've gotten good at hiring online. So there's a lot of job sites. There's all sorts of different online worker sites that you can go to and you can find talent. And I usually tend to go to those sites, find the talent. And then depending on the site, I might try to pull them off that site because some of them are really greedy. A recent couple just got bought up by a big company. And for the employee's sake, they want 20% of everything the employee makes, which is a huge cut of your income. That's a huge, It's a huge bite of your income, right? It's the first they want 20% of the first 100 hours. But then for you, they want to charge a couple extra bucks. So if I want to pay you, $10 an hour or $5 an hour or 15 or whatever, I actually have to pay you a couple of dollars more per hour for the staff member to actually get that. So I like to pull them off. And then we use a tool called Time Doctor, timedoctor.com. I'm a huge fan of it. It was really funny because after I signed up and became a huge fan, I was telling all my friends about it. And I told one of my friends about it and he's like, I know Time Doctor. I'm like, really? How do you know it? He's like, I had it built. And so a buddy of mine actually owns it. He was the 4th person I was referring to the software. Like, this tool is amazing. You got to try it. He's like, really? You really love it? I'm like, yeah, I've been telling everybody. He's like, good. I'm glad you like it. I'm like, well, yeah. Why? Well, yeah, you should use it. He's like, I do use it. I'm like, oh, how do you know about it? He's like, oh, well, I had it made. It's my software. I was like, oh.
What a small world, man. I'm going to check that out when we get done. That's cool. Hey, one of the things in looking at your all the things you do, and of course, there's a ton of it as far as business management, coaching. You've got books out there, but you're best known for your ability to create 7-figure automated income streams from scratch. How do you do that?
Well, it's a lot more than we can cover in this short call. People are welcome.
No, absolutely right.
People are welcome to check out my website, bestbusinesscoach.ca, or check out the podcast. But in a nutshell, what I can tell you And what I can share with you is that, first of all, it's like I did martial arts, and there's lots of fancy techniques that people come up with. There's all sorts of, like, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, all sorts of fancy stuff you can do and weird chokes and stuff. But you only see, like, the fundamentals are fundamental for a reason, because they work at the beginner level, the intermediate level, and the advanced level. They work across the board. So when you say, how do you do that? I focus on the fundamentals of business that work at every stage of business, whether it's a young business, a medium business, or a mature business. In a nutshell, a lot of businesses, there's a few things you need in place. So I'm going to give people here, this is kind of ad hoc. So if I don't have exactly 5 points, but I'm going to try to give you 5 points for how you do that. So first of all is you have to have more than just one thing for sale. You either want to try and sell something that's a subscription, or you already want to know what your second, third, fourth, fifth offer are going to be for people. So if you solve one problem for them, what's the next problem they're going to have? It's really hard to build a big business off of a one-time sale business. Most people know that a business needs repeat customers for stability and to survive, but nobody has a system or a process or a method of doing that. Subscription kind of has that built in, but even then they could still do that. Oh, you have the subscription, maybe you want this or this or this. You want to upgrade to the VIP subscription. There's a lot of ways to do that. We call that lifetime customer value, which basically means how much is a customer worth to you while they do business with you before that relationship kind of just takes its natural course. So lifetime customer value is an extremely important number, and you have to always be focused at growing that. So that's one, that's for sure. Subscriptions really help, but you don't have to have a subscription, but you do need to think about what's the lifetime of this customer relationship. So that's one. Two is you need to be able to get your message in front of people on demand. I'm a big fan. I have my own podcast, so I'm a big fan of content marketing. But you can't, with content marketing, go, hey, I would like an extra 300 leads today, and just go get them. You can't say, hey, we would like, hey, this program, people are loving this program. Let's put another 1,000 people in here. You can't do that on demand with content marketing. You can do that on demand with paid advertising. The number one difference between a small business and a nationwide or international business is the ability to pay to advertise your business, which is not easy. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it, but it is simple. So by saying it's simple, it means it doesn't take a lot to wrap your mind around all the facets that are involved in paid advertising. But it does take time, energy, money, and experience to be able to get something to work. And even the best professionals, they start off with a guess, their best guess, and you go from there. And it's almost like if you were to hire a sales rep, you would kind of have to invest in them for a while before they actually started, performing, because they got to learn your product, they got to learn how to, you know what I mean? They got to learn how to sell it. Yeah. Same thing. So paid advertising is a huge, huge, huge thing for a lot of companies. It really is. I don't know how to emphasize that enough, because it's really tough through any other means to scale your business on demand. The economy is up, down. If you can know what you can afford, we go back to that lifetime customer value. If I know a customer is worth $800 to me net after my expenses, then I know I can spend up to $799 in marketing to get them before I lose any money. So if I want to make $100,000, then and I'm spending $799 to get them, then I just need 100,000 sales. As long as my numbers work, the arithmetic works. It's just arithmetic. I don't need algebra. I don't need calculus. I don't even necessarily need a calculator. I'm doing addition, subtraction, and multiplication. It's just really basic. So that's nice. 2 tips. The third tip is there's a ton of automated tools you can use online nowadays. In fact, one of them revolutionized the business world, and for a lot of people, went unnoticed, and that's called an autoresponder. These things are phenomenal. I don't mean like, David, when you're on vacation and I email you and I get an email back saying, hey, I'm on the vacation in the Philippines, I'll be back on this date. That's like an auto reply. That's not really an autoresponder. Email marketing automation, autoresponders. It's a way to actually schedule emails. So I mentioned I had martial arts. I used to have a martial arts school, and we used to have 6-month and 12-month contracts. So if you joined and signed up, I had an email autoresponder where I had already planned all the emails out. So you would just be added, and it would merge your info in, be like, hey, David, welcome to the club. Hope you're having a great time. Here's what you need to know for your first few classes. Hey, David, it's been a week since you joined. Just wanted to send you an email. See, how are you doing? Do you have any questions? Hey, David, it's the end of your first month. Really appreciate it if you could fill out this this survey and let us know how we're doing. How can we improve? How can we make it better for you? And so I didn't have to have a staff member monitoring all these people, right? I didn't have to have a staff member or anyone remembering to do that sort of stuff. You can do some very sophisticated and advanced things with that, but again, start with the fundamentals. So that's just one way that you can create automated income streams, because now I have an automated system that if I get a lead, hey, thank you for signing up for a quote on our website. Just want to know if you had any questions. Please click reply. Let us know what your questions are. hey, haven't heard from you yet, just wanted to reach out. Like, it's an automated way to follow up with leads, an automated way to deliver products that have been bought, depending what your product is. If it's a digital download, I've even done things where the email will automatically email a fulfillment house to mail the letter with the box of goods to the person. So no one's touching anything. They buy, automated email goes to the company, they print the manuals and the books, they put it in a box, they send it to the person, boom, done, right? As far as I'm concerned, that's automated. Sure, there's some manual labor.
Oh, man.
But that's an easy way to do it.
That's brilliant.
So that's 3. I got to come up with a couple more. So, but those are really the top 3 keys. I mean, honestly, there's still like there's obviously a lot more that goes into it. There's other things. There's things like I recommend anyone that gets into this to understand database marketing. Like, what would you do if you were unable to ever get a new lead or a new customer? How would you design your business to support you? You have to think about that. Oh, actually, that's a great one. And the 5th one would be planning for scale at the beginning. So begin with the end in mind. And what I mean by that is there's something called the rule of 10,000. I got this from Michael Gerber. The rule of 10,000 is you have to think about, how would I manage 10,000 leads? How would I manage 10,000 orders? How would I manage 10,000 complaints? How would I manage? Because you have to think about that. A lot of people think that they'll start small and build into it. But the reality is, if I want to do catering for massive scale events, right? Hundreds of people, my vision is to have this big business. I have to think about that in advance, because I need different equipment if I'm baking pies and dinner for 5 to 10 people versus 40 versus 100. The kitchen structure, layout, equipment is totally different. So you need to kind of keep that in mind. And so it's a simplistic list. It's kind of a on-the-fly list. I didn't have that prepared in advance, but those are really some key points that I think would definitely point people in the right direction.
No, those are great answers, great thoughts, great processes, and I appreciate you just flipping that off the cuff very much. I'm sure people will appreciate that a lot, and obviously we'll check out your website to learn more. I guess at the part of it, and I really like the idea that you talk about basics. I mean, no matter what you do, if it's sports, if it's marketing, if it's mowing your yard, you got to start with the basics, but you also got to look ahead to the big picture and keep that in mind, otherwise you're just going to grow a small business instead of the business that you want.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people, that's the other part is, I mentioned the rule of 10,000, but you have to design your business for scale to begin with, because if you don't, you might have all the success in the world, but you might hit a ceiling. Like if you're selling if you're trading your own time for dollars, there's only so many hours in a day that you can sell. So at some point, you're going to have a ceiling on that. So
when you started, how long ago, what age were you when you really started having these epiphanies to grow all these businesses and have all this success? What tripped your trigger at the time, you think?
Well, I mean, as a kid, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I had issues with authority, and I had a hard time just staying in my own swim lane. So I would get a job somewhere, and I would see ways the whole business could improve, or things that people weren't doing things right, and so I would get frustrated and I would move on. I never got fired, but I would leave jobs and move on. I would want to change something new. But I think the real change is actually right before when I launched that martial arts school. I had left a 6-year relationship. It was almost like you burn your bridge, like there's no going back type thing. She was very against the entrepreneurial lifestyle. I was very for it, and that was a bit of a point of contention in the relationship. And so it was almost like I had to make it work. I can't fail now. So that was definitely part of it. But another part just really comes from wanting to have an impact and influence and control over my life, and understanding that the world. Steve Jobs has a great interview on YouTube where he talks about how when you realize that the world is not like, when you grow up, you're told the world is like, this is the world as it is. And, you're supposed to just exist and not bump into things too much. But when you realize that the world is something that you can interact with, you can push and pull on things, and it'll almost dance with you. You can really design your life and design your lifestyle. And, I've just always really wanted to help other people. And so it's just constantly been a leveling up. Like I grew my martial arts school and it was very successful it was a young business, but it was very successful for a young business. And I had other instructors and sales reps, and I was able to do what I wanted. And so I just kind of started playing with other projects. And then I ended up helping other entrepreneurs, my friends, and they were having success. And I realized that obviously the price point was higher. So that's an incentive. But even beyond that, I knew that in my business, I really loved the testimonials. Like people would come and tell me how the martial art and training and the discipline and just the physical activity, how it's affected their lives, the exercise, right? I mean, if exercise would be a drug, if we could make exercise a drug in a pill, it would be the best pill that we have, like the most effective medicine that we have. So I love those testimonials. And when my friends were coming, the entrepreneurs that I was talking with and sharing openly like I am now, I love that. And I realize every business needs a few hundred to a few thousand customers to stay afloat. And through my business, I'm affecting a few hundred people's lives. If I had a few hundred entrepreneurs that were following me and I was helping them effectively, it was an exponential, it was a multiplier for me. I could be impacting tens of thousands of people's lives. So I actually set a goal to help create 200 new multimillionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. And it's for the impact and that influence. Because the reality is, if you have skills, knowledge, and expertise, you don't really have to worry about putting food on the table. And so I'm in a good position that way. I'm smart in the sense I try to never spend more than 50 or 60 cents of every dollar that I make. So I'm very smart that way, that I'm not really, don't have a lot of pressure in any sense that way. And so it really has turned into something of just wanting to have impact and influence on the world and a legacy, Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, and you really nailed one point that I've believed in a long, long time. If you are in an employee mindset and you're happy with that, go for it. But many of us get in that employee mindset and you go, what are they doing? Why don't they do that? I mean, I used to change jobs every 2 years just for the same reason. I'm going, okay, I'm out of here. I'm bored. I'm moving on to the next deal, And now I run my own business and I'm very happy, and I can play with my wife's kids and dogs and whatever, and feel like you're really paying it forward and helping other people along the way. And I think that's a big piece of what you're doing too, right?
Right. Well, there's two types of income. I actually learned this from a client and a previous mentor and friend, John Assaraf, and he always told me that there's two types of income. There's physical income and there's psychic income. And what I've found is that psychic income, recognition, and that psychic reward is way more powerful than the physical income. Wikipedia is maintained by people that work a full-time job, come home, and then volunteer on there. Why would they do that? Why would you work a 9 to 5 and work 10, 12 hours a day, come home, and then start moderating Wikipedia pages? Because you feel like you're contributing in some way. The psychic income is so valuable. So I think that not only is it important that people do find a job I think it's important people do what they're passionate about, because they'll do it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll do it really to a high caliber. And if you do something well, you'll get well compensated for it. And so but how do you figure that out? And how do you know what people are willing to pay for? That's a really messy, kind of scary world. And so that's kind of where, the podcast and all the other things that I do are there to try to help people. And interviews like this, because I just want to help. Help you. Like anyone listening, feeling like that itch that you have in your heart, that's proof to you that it's yours. You just have to claim it. You just have to figure out how to make it work. But you definitely need guidance. You need guidance. You need to surround yourself with like-minded individuals, and you need to just commit. You really need to commit. And you can achieve anything as long as you're willing to sacrifice everything else for it. And that's something that some people they don't really want it. They just say that they want it. They don't want to watch. They don't want it as bad as they want to watch their TV shows at night, or to be able to sleep in. And that's where it comes back to that psychic income. When you connect with something, Bill Gates, one of the richest people in the world, he's up and working full 10-hour days because he's passionate about the foundation him and his wife have founded. When you find that passion, it's not work anymore. Some things you do, yeah, sure, it's work, but it energizes you versus drains you, and you have to figure out what that is. So,
no question. Absolutely right. Couldn't agree more. And folks, if you want to learn more, and I believe you do after this wonderful conversation with Daryl Urbanski, please go to his website, Bestbusinesscoach.ca. A real pleasure to talk to you. I wish you continued success, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, David. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
You've been listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/your 20-minute podcast.
Until next time, don't forget to download your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. That's audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast for your free audiobook. And thanks for listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower.